everybody. Welcome to the Possibility Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Devin Henderson, and I believe that something greater is always possible for you. Good morning, Todd Lamanske.
Good morning.
Well, before I introduce Todd formally, because it's going to be super formal, we're going to put our tuxes on just for the introduction. But before we get there, I want to give, of course, the normal, well-deserved shout-out to etc. Shawnee, who is just crushing it. We just had breakfast, so thank you to Shannon, the manager, Michael, Phyllis, Chris, Sonia, our server. I know their names. It's like trying to name my kids.
Right.
I'm like, Eva, Emmy, Haven, Met. I do that with my servers, and they're very confused. But seriously, etc., thank you so much for the space. They give us the place, and they give us the time and the breakfast, so they are a sponsor.
Well, we do have to mop the whole restaurant when we're done.
You're not supposed to tell that to my listeners, dude. I'm trying to keep an image here, right? I don't show me mopping the place afterwards.
I'm replacing a couple of shingles on the roof. It's a whole thing, but they're nice. They're very nice.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this is going to be a long episode, as you can already tell. Todd, before we introduce you, how was the Despierta burrito?
It was very good, like really, really good. Very filling. I actually couldn't finish it, but I know.
Yeah, that reminds me of Anchorman when he's like, this burrito is good, but it is filling, and he throws it out the window, and Jack Black. As soon as you said that, that's all I could think about. So it was good. It was filling.
Yeah,
awesome.
it was excellent.
I had Mayuge. They're awesome here. Sonia remembers my order every time because I always order the same thing. I get a veggie omelet and then oatmeal, and she's just like, boom. So she even knows all the details. It's amazing. Let's just talk about etc. for a while. Forget about you. This is amazing. Hey, well, everybody, this is my very good friend, Todd Lamanske. I was going to read Todd's introduction like I have for some of the other speakers and whatnot, or, just pull their bio off their website. But what I thought I would do is play a little, I'm just going to throw out some fun facts that I know about Todd. Because, who's better introducing someone than actually their friend? Because I don't know about you. I go a lot of places. People read our introductions. Some people crush it. They read it word for word. Sometimes they'll add things, and that can either add to or take away. It just depends on who it is.
Usually takes away, but go ahead.
You're right. I'm with you. And then, but then sometimes it's just someone who's like, I am reading this bio. This person was, this person went to the moon and back. Very exciting. You're like, oh man, okay. Some people have a video introduction, which is really cool. Sometimes
let's cut to that now.
Yeah.
We didn't have the budget. Sorry.
What I like to do, we didn't have the budget. I didn't have the budget. This is my deal. Yeah, you're just disappointed. As soon as he walked in, he's like, oh, a little ring light in your own camera. But before we get to your introduction, do you ever just have someone wink? Do you just say, hey, this person's fun, they're awesome. Hey, here's a couple fun facts about me. Just get up and talk to the people like you're a normal person and set me up in the best way possible. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, but it's rare. Usually I want them to stick to my intro just because most people don't know how to give an introduction,
Yeah.
And so if I don't care too much, or if it's a small group, I might just say, you can just say whatever you want. But generally, I give them, because my introduction is pretty short.
Yeah, but you got some hard hitting things in your intro. I remember the first couple of times I saw you on stage, I was like, I didn't know some of these things about you. So let's start with Todd is an incredible magician. That's like...
Whoa.
Oh, I know.
You're not going to start with handsome? You're not going to lead with he's really handsome?
I know. That just shows how much I think your magic is so good that it's overrides your handsomeness.
Good
Sometimes.
job. Sometimes.
Today. Today for sure. No, man, he's an incredible close-up magician, stage magician. He's been performing, I approximated about 35 years based on how long I've known you. Does that sound about right?
Believe it or not, it just depends on 45 really, but that was when I was young. But 35, would be inaccurate.
You started learning maybe when you were 45 years ago. Okay, yep. Cool. I'm thinking more professionally making money, career-wise. That's about right. So because I've been I'm finishing my 20th year professionally. So you got 15 years on me. You're 15 years better than I am, you punk.
Well.
But Todd's magic has been featured in TV commercials. He has been a regular performer at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, which is huge. A lot of people always ask me, have you performed in the Magic Castle? And I have to say no, but my friend has.
Right,
that's always
right.
my no,
but I know a guy.
Right. Yeah. He's very handsome.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you throw that in.
No, I have it every other bullet point. You just caught me on the one off where I didn't get it. You performed at the inaugural ball for George W. Bush, which is incredible, man.
That was incredible,
Incredible. Maybe we can hear more about that. You've performed for a variety of other celebrities, and he just did a trick for our server, Phyllis. Blew her mind, and I saw her out there. I didn't tell you this yet, but I saw her. She was, my mind is still blown. My son would have loved that. He's 21, and she said, we watched those two people who are on A&E. Is that the channel there? Or the WE?
CW.
Yeah, the CW. Thank you. We watched that. I can't remember the names. I was like, Penn and Teller, and she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, he was on there, and she was like freaked out. So,
nice.
So she's probably gonna want to touch you on your way out the door.
Of course.
So anyway,
they can all line up for $5. It's not a big deal.
But they can watch your Penn and Teller episode, which was awesome. Just Google it, YouTube it. Todd Lamanske on Penn and Teller. You'll love it. So most importantly, on top of all of that, Todd's a family man. He's a husband. He's a dad. He's a grandpa. Just to name a few. I know he does not look like a grandpa, but because he's incredibly handsome.
Right,
You're a handsome grandpa. Today, the reason I want to bring Todd on, I knew it'd just be a fun conversation because when we haven't done this for a long time, and we need to do this. Just go on a road trip together. When one of us is performing out of town, we'll take the other, and we'll just like laugh so hard in the car.
We do.
It's almost like you got to pull the car over. Dangerous kind of laughter.
Yeah, it's always fun.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And Todd's the kind of guy that I can just call anytime. I don't have to have a reason. I can just be like, hey, dude, what's going on?
True.
And it's really fun. So really good friend. We're really tight. But today I wanted to bring him on especially because, this is the Possibility Mindset podcast, and a theme that I've seen in your life over and over again is just like unexpected things happening, but then greater things happening because of it. So I feel like you've really had that possibility mindset, and that you said, okay, this thing that happened that I wasn't planning, but what else is possible? Which is what the possibility mindset asks. And I've just seen you achieve incredible things in your life, So I hope that you listeners, that my vision for you is that you'll kind of glean from some of this wisdom and his experience today as we dive in. So anything from the introduction, that was me burping deep down. Don't worry, they'll edit that out totally. Yeah, that'll all be edited out. I've got a team and a sound crew over there. Hey, crew, wave to the crew.
You're doing this on the wrong side.
Am I doing that on the wrong side? Oh, does that go over here? My bad. I don't have camera awareness. Anyway, man, anything we need to add that I've missed from the bio or the rap sheet?
Nope, I think that's it. Hey, listen, really great chatting with you.
How many felonies? I forgot to mention that. Just
every road trip, we get one every road trip.
Right.
One
we
per.
have the same amount. That's awesome, man. Oh, by the way, people think we look a lot alike. I've been mistaken for you several times.
Yeah,
which is very weird.
And vice versa. Yeah. We don't really. Maybe when I was a little younger and thinner, and that's when people say that, I say, yeah, that's Devin. He's younger and in better shape. I hate him. And I actually do say that. I say, I'm kidding. We're best friends. But
And then you swing at me the first time you see me.
Absolutely.
Just for no reason.
Well, you're on my dartboard at home.
Yeah, totally. You can't even recognize me anymore.
That's right.
That's ridiculous, man. But anyway, it is funny how I think just being in the same industry in the same town, if people hasn't seen one of us for a while, they're like, oh, is that Todd? Is that Devin? So is that anyway?
Yeah.
So, all right, man. The other thing I have to say, just get ready for this. I have in my podcast right now, I have a lot of, oh, and by the way, this before we start. Oh, and by the way, this before we start. And then we never do a podcast. It's all these asides, and then it's like, it's over. He's a lot funnier than I am.
Oh.
Meaning that, like, in general conversation, I'll come up with a joke, and then he always just takes it to here. And I'm like, how do you do that? Every time. It's like I come up with a punchline, and then he takes it to a grand slam, and it drives me crazy.
I do want to say this. I think there was a time, maybe, because I'd been doing it for a long time when you were still pretty green. I'd been doing it for a while. So I think maybe there was a time that maybe I was funnier than you. And I'm not so sure that's the case anymore because all your years with the stand-up comedy, and, dude, you're funnier than you think you are.
Well, thank you. That brings us to funny contest number 1. Ding!
It's just coffee. I swear, it's just coffee.
It is just coffee. But I left.
I like doing this
here. What did you do? Yeah, he's
because
got
mine's
water.
just water.
Yeah, jeez, you're like one of those people on the talk show late at night when it. Yeah. Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I was just acting.
All right, man. So, dude, let's take it way back. You, how you started magic, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like I said, unexpected things happen. Amazing things came from it. You broke not just your arm. You broke both of your arms when you were a young kid, and that led to what? So, how'd you break your arms?
So, I'm going to back up even a little bit further. Sorry to do that to you.
Jeez.
So, you just
How
asked.
far are you going to back up?
So,
I
not
mean,
that far.
Okay.
Not that far. So, just as far as like how magic started for me,
Yeah.
the magic bug bit me when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
My brother got a trick deck of cards, a little magic deck of cards, and I saw it. I was like, that is awesome. So that was kind of my first exposure to it, and it was I fell in love. Probably about age 12 or 13, I think I got a magic kit for Christmas, and so then I was doing that and studying that. But at 13, that's when I broke both my arms. So I was lifting weights, and I was just standing in my living room, and I had 95 pounds over my head, and my knees buckled. And so I fell, and when I fell, I fell kind of like in the military or the bench press position, basically. But
So you fell backwards.
so I fell backwards, and
Yeah.
the barbell hit my arms so hard. So you can see about where the bar would have been. It would have been at least 6-8 inches maybe from my chest. It buckled my arm so bad that the bar bruised my chest. So it really crunched my arm.
Wow.
So yeah, sorry to be so graphic. My left arm I had a cast just halfway up, and then this arm I had a cast all the way up to the bicep, and the arm was bent. And I do remember when I got to the hospital, they had to set my arm, so they put me out for it. And back then, hospital beds weren't plastic; they were all, the rails were those metal, like kind of chrome metal rails. And I came out of recovery, and I'm waking up, and I don't really know what's going on. And I just remember it was like slow motion. I lifted my arm, and it went boom, and it hit that metal, and I was like, oh no! And I realized I had 2 casts on, and that was like, I think 6 weeks for one, and then 8 weeks to get the other one off.
So you didn't feel anything when you did that because you were
No, it was just
the realization of
yes,
the cast.
this wasn't a dream. This is bad.
Did you black out when you hit the floor?
No.
Okay, so
No.
you're awake for and you're just yelling.
In fact,
I'm sure.
I didn't know this arm was broken. This one was clearly broken.
Okay.
There was no mistaking it was broken. And my brother helped me because I didn't have a shirt on because at 13 I didn't have a shirt on.
He's not wearing a shirt right now.
I'm not wearing one right now. This is CGI. So he real gingerly helped me get a jacket on. And then, as soon as he got that one on, he grabbed this arm to stick it in, and I was like, ah! So they were both broken. So anyway, but
he was doing that to get to the hospital. It was
exactly.
a cold day.
It was I don't remember. Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
But so while I was in the hospital, one of my mom's friends bought me some books on magic. He bought me 7 books on magic, and that's when I started. I couldn't do anything at that point, but I was reading, and so that was kind of a big turning point for me. So
man, can you imagine like the pain? I mean, that was before the days of viral videos, but had you been videoing that, that's one of those that would have gone out there in not a great way. But man, I can't. Why were you lifting in your living room?
I mean, so keep in mind, the house I grew up in, I'm the baby of 8, right? So 10 people in my family, 900 square feet house. It was living room, kitchen. There was like a little hallway, and there was 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So there was 4 boys in 1 bedroom.
No basement.
No, there was a crawl space you had to go outside to get to. If there was a storm, you could go down there or whatever. But no basement.
Wow.
I'm telling you, dude. If you saw it, you'd be like, "There's no way 10 people could have lived in this house."
Yeah.
So.
Jeez, dude. I should have mentioned that about all the siblings.
So when you say why in your living room.
Yeah, now it makes sense. Yeah,
there wasn't,
for sure.
I mean,
golly,
outside
dude.
would have been the only other place to be doing it.
Well, not a lot of space there to put in a CrossFit gym, huh? You're just doing barbells in the.
No, I got this physique the hard way.
Because Because the CrossFit people get it the easy way.
Easy
way. Oh, come on, flipping tires. Come on. Wow, dude. Okay, so then you're reading books, and I can relate because my journey happened when I was about 11. So around the same age, you start sort of reading, digesting, and taking all this in. But what's frustrating for you is that you couldn't do anything with it at the time. Right? You're learning all this cool stuff, thinking, "Oh, I'd love to try this card trick in 6 months."
Right. Not that long, but yeah, that's right.
So crazy, man. Okay, so then fast forward. So you get through high school, and then how does magic become like a job? How do you start getting paid for gigs? What's that progression like?
I met a guy when I was 18. He showed me a couple of tricks, and that's when I started kind of taking it a little more seriously. I mean, it was still a hobby, but I was putting more effort and work into it.
Yeah.
But when I was 21, I was selling office supplies, and I was like an outside salesman. So I would call on companies, and my thing was I wanted to set myself apart from anybody else selling office supplies. So I would just casually bring up that I did magic, and I would kind of try to make it seem organic. I would just be like, "Oh yeah, I did a magic show over the weekend," and they'll be, "Oh yeah, you didn't know I was a magician?" And then so it just got to where my clients knew that I was a magician, so whenever I would pop in to see him, like every couple weeks, I would do a trick for him. And so kind of gave me a little bit of an edge over the competition. But then that turned into like company Christmas parties, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I just started doing events.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
This story is so exciting that I need more coffee to hear the rest of it. You're not a coffee drinker. You wouldn't understand. A couple things I pull from that is number one, it set you apart, which, one thing I always encourage people with is share your magic, because we all have something unique. So even if you don't do magic tricks, what is that thing about you that's going to set you apart if you're in sales, say, and you're trying to build relationships? What is it about you? And for some people, it's just their sense of humor, their personality. Maybe they have little gifts that they give away.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a good storyteller, and you just always count on this person to tell a story. Maybe they, have a joke of the day or whatever. And I just think it's cool that you had that thing that set you apart. I think that's great. And then the fact that it's like, wow, this became something, and just how it starts. So like I always talk about start small and end big, and you were just like starting these little things, and then it just started turning into parties here and there. And then, look at you now, man, Well, that's cool. You just followed your passion.
Well, it is weird. I think a lot of people think that there's this moment of clarity when it's like, this is what I want to do. And maybe that's the case for some people. But that wasn't the case for me. It just kind of became that. It just kind of became that I realized, oh, I can do this for a living.
Right.
This can be my full-time thing.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that moment, I do know I've talked to other magicians who said, yeah, there was that moment where I knew that's what I wanted to do. That wasn't the case for me. In fact, when I was 18 graduating high school, man, that was a confusing time for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I felt like a lot of my friends knew what they were going to do, and I was just like, I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, by then, were you pretty proficient in magic by the time you were graduating?
I was okay, but it wasn't like I had even thought about that like when I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, it wasn't like that even dawned on me as the way I'm going to go.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, like I said, 21, doing it for companies when I called on them to sell them office supplies, that's when it started like, okay,
yeah,
maybe I can do this. But even back then, it was still part-time for quite a while.
Yeah. So then you fast forward, you had a day job for a while, and then you were able to part ways. You had the opportunity to part ways with your day job eventually. And so obviously this is now what you do full-time. This is your day job. And I think that's scary for a lot of people, which, we're not out here saying everybody quit your job right now, but I think there's that message of, are you living your best life? Did you follow your calling? Did you give up on a dream too early? And I think a lot of people are thinking like, how can I move on in this area of my life? And maybe the message is there's something that you have to let go of. It might not even be your job. Maybe it's like an old way of thinking, or it's a relationship that's toxic, that's not good for you or something. But you were able to let go of this, which was scary. It's always scary to let go because there's a sense of security in it. And for you, it was like you were making so much in your day job, so much as a magician, but how could you let go of that? So tell me about that. Like, how was that scary? But also, how did it how did you embrace the possibility mindset through that process?
Yeah. So the day job I had right before I started doing just magic only, I was there 16 years. And at the beginning, I liked it and, liked everybody I worked with. Towards the end, I hated it. I absolutely hated my job. I mean, I hate to say it, but that was the reality. I hated going to work every day, and it was just miserable. And yet, I was still resistant to pulling away because, like you said, I have this big chunk of money that I'm making for my day job. I was actually making about the same amount of money from my day job as I was doing magic. The problem was, you put those two together, I've got this pretty decent income.
Sure.
That if I walk away from the day job, I now have to take the magic money and double it.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, I'm very blessed. Within a year, I did that.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
It really is. It really is. And
I watched
I'm not
it
patting
happen.
me on the back.
No, yeah.
You and I both share the same faith, so I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
So
I watched it happen, and it was like, in theory, people might be like, "Hey, you let go of your day job, you'll be able to focus here," and it's kind of like, is that really going to happen? It happened with this man, and the reason I think, on top of being blessed and your faith and all that, I think the way that I saw it happen was you were able to focus your energy, your effort, your resources, your finances, your passion into this one thing that you love the most. And you're going to work way harder for that because you love it than you ever would of that old job. And because of that, you didn't have to say no to any gigs because you had a day job. You didn't have to work around that schedule. You could go anywhere, anytime. And that's what freed you up to your business exploded.
Yeah. Yeah. I give it to God, but honestly, that's where I put my faith as far as because I'm not really doing anything to market, which maybe goes against everything you're preaching here.
Don't listen to this part, entrepreneurs. Well, no, I'm kidding.
I think it, for me, when people have asked me for advice and that, I think the first thing is you got to make sure you have a product that's good. And I feel like I'm good at what I do. I don't want to say I'm great. I know what I am, but I'm good. If you book me for an event, I'm going to deliver.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
It's true. Very true.
Right. But so I think you have to have that. So if you're thinking I don't need to quit my job and I'm going to be a skydiver, whatever it is, make sure you know what you're doing in that other thing.
Yeah.
That's
right, man.
Maybe common sense, but
it reminds me of what Steve Martin says: "Be so good they can't ignore you."
Yeah.
And I'll hear so many magician speakers say, how do you get out there? How do you market yourself? It's like, man, just be good. I think it's people just need to focus more on how good are you just rocking the stage? Are you crushing? What kind of feedback are you getting? If it's not, then why market yourself, right?
Yeah.
Why market a less than good product? I remember a guy in the speaker industry for years. He worked with the Speakers Bureau. He said, "Nothing kills a speaker's career faster than great marketing with a bad speaker."
Yeah.
And then that's true. And I've experienced that too, where I've gone to the next level with my website or my demo video, where I'm like, whoa, this is better than I am. So I need to but instead of being I'm going to not get a new website or not get a new video, I'm how can I make myself better to make sure that I'm really going to deliver? I don't know why you're laughing, but deliver on this level of demo video or what, because it's I need to make sure that when people hire me, they're not his 3-minute trailer was awesome, but he was awful.
Right.
That's not what you want, man.
Well, here's why I'm laughing, because it reminds there's a female comedian from years ago, and I think her name is Margaret Smith or Maggie Smith or something like that. And she's kind of got this way of delivering stuff, this way she talks, and she says, "My mom says, why don't you wear lipstick on stage?" And she goes, "Well, Ma, but what if I'm not funny? It'd be like being a crummy outfielder with a paisley glove." And that's why I was laughing, because it's true.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, totally, man.
Sorry.
Well, it is funny because sometimes I do think about what am I wearing? How's my hair? What's my appearance like when I come in? What do these people know about me? But it's
you stopped caring about that kind of stuff?
So I let myself go, and now things are soaring. My career is
You lobbed that one up. I had to swing.
I did. I like to lob things up to you unknowingly. But yeah, man. But it's just oh man, I forget more. I could go up there in t-shirt and jeans if I'm helping people transform their lives and go, wow, that's profound I can apply that to my situation, my work, my life right now. You know, and
Yeah.
for you know, you haven't really done the speaking thing. I've tried to nudge you there a couple times with some messages, but it's like, I mean, you make people's lives better too, just making people laugh. You know, I know there's been situations, you and I have both worked in restaurants, you longer than I have, but people will come in and you'll approach a table and they just seem down and out, and you just find out they just came from a funeral or something.
Yeah.
And then you can just completely transform their day, you know. So
It is true.
Your work is just as valuable as any motivational speakers in terms of lifting spirits up, making people smile.
I know you know this. Your audience may or may not know this. Probably don't know this. I had quintuple bypass surgery a little over 2 years ago. And I remember laying in the hospital, and by the way, I got a huge appreciation for nurses. I think we all know nurses are awesome. We all know that. Everybody knows it. But it was like big time wake up call for me on what nurses do. Like, they are rock stars, saving lives every day. Nurses, you guys, heroes, rock stars, I love you. But as I'm laying in the hospital, I'm looking at what the nurses do and what the doctor did to save my life. And I was thinking about what I do. And I mean, I felt small. I felt like I do card tricks for a living. I know that's oversimplifying it, but it made me feel small. And I remember talking to a couple of people that said, no, what you do is important. People need that. And you do bring joy. And it took me a little while to fully embrace that. But yeah, I mean, I do believe that now, that it's important. It's not saving lives. I know that. But I do believe there's value to doing that. So,
yeah. Good. And I'm glad you see the value in it. It's true. And I think about, like, you know, Todd and I kind of started from the same place, magicians, entertainers. And then at one point, someone challenged me to start being a motivational speaker. And I don't see that as I took the right step or I went the right direction, but I do believe I went the right direction for me.
Yeah.
And if you did that, maybe it would have been the wrong direction for you. You know,
Right.
I don't know what's in your future. I don't know what's in my future, obviously, but it just shows that, like, to me, two people can still have this, be putting out the same value, but it just has different forms. But we're doing what's true to our calling. Maybe if you try to be a motivational speaker, you'd be like, this just isn't me. Like, I can just impact people more with just this entertainment factor, you know. So, but I'm still going to try to pull you over to the dark side.
Hey, I probably need to.
Only because I see so much. I see that there is so much there. Yeah. But if that's not your calling, then I only see it because that's what I do. So of course I'm naturally going to see people's story and the value in it and how it can impact people. But maybe that story is just meant for, you know, podcasts.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that, because I feel like sometimes people may try to define success for you. Let me give you an example. I feel like most people equate, when they look at an entertainer, they equate success with fame. So, like, I think people, if I was on America's Got Talent, or if I was on like some national stage, they're like, oh, that, to them, that's, you know. And I know guys who are millionaires, magicians who are millionaires doing magic. You don't even know who they are. But for some reason, if they have fame, oh, they work, like, here's what I will hear on a fairly regular basis, like, why aren't you in Vegas? And like, to them, that's the gauge. That's the, oh man, if you were in Vegas, like, that's, when the reality is, I'm exactly where I want to be. I don't want to, first of all, I don't want to be in Vegas because my family's here. My wife is here. My daughter and my grandchildren are here. One of my daughters is here. But I don't want to be in Vegas. They're all here. So for me, success is that I get to do what I love, I make a good living, and I get to be with my family. I wouldn't trade that to, you know. So I guess don't let other people define what success is for you. You know? Yeah.
I love that, and I know this isn't what you're saying, but it made me think when you said, you know, some people are millionaires, but they're not known. But also, money doesn't determine success. You're just using that as an example,
yes,
right?
Yes. So, thank you for
yeah. And I know you didn't mean that, but I wanted to bring that up because it's like, even if like for us, like there's birthday party magicians, right? So at one time I was a birthday party magician, and then I moved to corporate because for me it was like there was a next level. But I've often told my wife, I was like, that doesn't mean that that's what every birthday party magician is supposed to do, to make some shift to, bigger, higher paying audiences, whatever. Because if like your calling is to be a birthday party magician for life, that is success. If that's your calling.
Not to mention, you were killing it back then. You were doing a ton.
Yeah,
so
I loved birthday
as far
parties.
as that goes, you were very successful at that.
Right.
But people could view that as, well, he just does kids parties.
Yeah.
And I think there are some magicians who would maybe look at that.
Yeah.
But for what you were doing, very successful. You were doing 20 to 30 a month, weren't you?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that's before kids, so I could do that.
True.
I could do 4 birthday parties on a Saturday.
That's true.
Man, but I remember when I was working at Fazoli's on kids' night, walking around doing magic, and there was this girl that I had known because I used to watch her in after-school daycare, and her family would come into the restaurant. And after I'd been working there for a few years, she goes, "You're still here?" This child is telling me this, like, kind of like that. Why aren't you in Vegas now? And honestly, I probably at the time I didn't have this knowledge of thinking, well, yeah, this is success for me. I was like, yeah, you're right. I need to get out of here. And I eventually,
but she didn't probably mean it that way. She probably meant like she thought you would. It was more of a compliment than you think it was.
Right,
Maybe it was
right,
like,
right.
You're still here because I think you're so good. You should be, to another level or whatever in her mind that was. So she didn't mean it as an insult.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the offense is in the eyes of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if people define success for us, it's only because we're letting them do that.
Yeah.
Right? They can compliment us or whatever they want to. Oh, you should be in Vegas, and it's kind of like, yeah, I could be, maybe my skill set warrants that, but man, I'm happy right here. This is right where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. Like I feel so blessed to be where I am. My brother-in-law just shared this last night that he's up for a worship leader position at a church, at a small church, and he's got some high credentials. He's like performed with people who have like worked with Michael W. Smith, and just like he's an incredible musician, can play multiple instruments. And during the interview process, they're like, "Why do you want to work here?" Kind of the same idea, like, why don't you want to go to some mega church or something huge? And just, his answer is like, this is my calling. This is where I've been put right now to something more like this. But I think people do. I think the general public sort of see the perception of, man, you're up here, so you belong in a certain place where it's like, who's to say, So, all right, man. So you covered the heart attack thing. I was going to talk about that. So.
Sorry.
What's that?
Sorry if I got
No. Oh, no. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. I just didn't want them to think that I hadn't. See, that's the pride in me going, I was going to say that. I was getting to it. I can't just let you have your moment. I got to be like, no, I was going to do it.
If you want, you can just edit it later.
I will.
And make it look like you asked about that.
I come out I'm like, how was that heart attack?
Crazy, huh?
You're crying.
That's
So, again, I talked about things in your life that were unexpected, and then amazing things happen. And you've already talked about, you've just, you're thankful for nurses. You see different things in people that maybe you didn't see, where you didn't see value before, value in yourself. What else came from that, experience in terms of new possibilities or a new mindset? Yeah. Hey, Sonia, come on in. Yeah. Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, totally. She's out of the shot, I think, but that's Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
Hi.
Yeah, she's our incredible server here at Etc. So, and your husband Tony's going to be serving me next week.
Probably next time. Yep. We're one of the few times in November. Okay.
Okay, in November, maybe a guest on the podcast, perhaps.
Maybe.
Okay.
Coming
all right.
soon.
Coming soon.
Thank you.
Tony. All right, Sonia's awesome. Yeah, man, the heart attack, the surgery, being in the hospital for so long. What greater things came from that experience in general?
I think for me, the biggest thing is, prior to that, and I think we're all guilty of this, is that we look at age as a number, and sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to be 50, or I'm getting ready to be 60, or whatever the number is for you. That those numbers can be scary, and I don't look at that anymore. Old is the goal, is what I say. Old is the goal. You want to get old. You don't want to fall apart, but you want to get older. So those numbers don't bother me at all. I won't get into big detail here, but I almost died. I had 3 heart attacks leading up to the 5 bypasses. I shouldn't even be here. So when something like that happens, it's eye-opening. It is, it makes you take everything and appreciate it all so much more. Everything.
Yeah.
So, I guess what I would say is I appreciate the fact that I can do magic for a living. I mean, who gets to do what they love? And it's a rare thing. It's rare that you get to do what you absolutely love. And a lot of people may like their job. Some people hate their job. But to actually love it, it's pretty rare. And I get to do that. And I'm still here. I got an awesome wife, kids, grandkids. It's just like I'm blessed in so many ways. So I guess the biggest thing I would say is I don't take any of that for granted anymore. Like I try to embrace that. And as far as like my work, nothing has really changed for me as far as like I'm still doing the same thing. I guess I need to push myself to do some more speaking, or just some speaking, not more, some speaking.
Yeah.
Because I think I do have a couple of messages and things that I could share. But ultimately, I just try to embrace each moment of each day.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. We, like you say, we have the same faith background. You know, our faith is in the Lord, that there's something better for us after this life. And we've had these conversations on the phone. I know it was a hard time for you, you know. Crazy that like the transformation was all just up here and in here. It was in your mind and your heart. It was just your faith grew, your relationships grew, that sense of gratitude became deeper. You know, that's one thing I talk about in my talks. Hey, always give thanks. But until you experience something that deep, I feel like you've hit like a new level of gratitude, not taking things for granted. You know, when you're that close to death, right? It really makes you think about your life and everything about it and what success looks like. Yeah. So I know we both married up. We've said that several times. Kim's awesome. Yeah. How did she support you in all of this? Wow. I mean, you know, I know there's a lot of obvious ways, but I don't even know. So, you know.
So sorry.
Take your time.
She's a rock star. She's everything to me. My best friend. She's everything. So something happened maybe a couple of months after all the stuff. My recovery was awful. It was very hard. I talked to other people who had, you know, multiple bypasses, and they were like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. Well, mine was hard. I mean, it was full 2 months before I could really do much of anything. I missed a bunch of work. And by the way, this guy, he showed me love in a way that was unexpected and amazing. And I'm sure if you were to ask him about it, he would say it was no big deal. But and we don't need to share any details about it. But ultimately, he did something for me that was amazing when I couldn't work. And Devin's a good man. You all know that, I'm sure. But so while I was so I had 3 heart attacks while I was on the table. They went in to do the heart cath where they shoot dye into your veins, and that can tell you where the blockage is. While they were doing that and I was on the table, I had 3 heart attacks. After I had my first heart attack, they actually brought Kim in. Let me come back to that. So when I got home from the hospital, I could barely stand long enough to brush my teeth. Taking a shower, we're talking 10 minutes, max, wiped me out. I didn't just have to sit down. I had to lay down after that. And that lasted for at least 2 weeks to a month, that kind of just no energy, no stamina. Like I would get up to walk around, I would just make a loop around through my dining room, my kitchen, dining room, back to my living room, and I would do 4 of those. And we're not talking very far at all, and I was wiped out. So anyway, during my recovery, there was a point, maybe a couple of months into it, my wife and I, we have a couch that the two end things like recline, and we got that right. It was a blessing. We got that right before any of this heart stuff happened. It was nice because I actually slept on that for a while because I couldn't sleep in a bed. Anyway, so what we love about this couch is that we can sit and watch TV and hold hands. I know that sounds silly, but we're still in love. And we'll sit and hold hands. And so we're sitting there holding hands. And I looked over at my wife. She looked at me, and I winked at her. And she started crying. I said, "What's wrong?" And she said that when they brought her in to see me, when I had my first heart attack, they brought her in. They said, it's bad. Do you want to come in and see him? And they brought her in, and I looked over at her, and I saw her, and I winked at her. And that reminded her of that. And she said then she had to go back out into the waiting room by herself and wonder if she was getting ready to lose her husband. And up until that point, as crazy as this sounds, I had not even thought about what she was dealing with during all that. I was just struggling to get through my recovery and figure out how I'm going to, everything about the recovery just was all about me and what I needed to do. And I hadn't even thought about how it had been affecting, how she was affected. And at that moment, they brought her in. She knows I'm having a heart attack and multiple heart attacks. I wink at her. They take her back out. And now, anyway, I hadn't thought about her and what that was doing to her until that moment, like 2 months later. And I felt terrible that I hadn't been thinking about her. At any rate, she was awesome. She took care of me big time. And I will, if I live to be 1,000, I will never be able to repay her for everything she did for me. Nor does she want me to, but you get it. But yeah, she was amazing. She did everything for me, cooked my meals, cooked healthy food for me, and helped me. I had to put these like stocking things on my legs so they wouldn't get swollen. She helped me do everything. So yeah, it was just she's amazing. I know you've got an amazing wife too.
Yeah. So your marriage became stronger.
Oh,
what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, I think you could easily say that. Yeah.
It's too bad. I think that sometimes things have to happen like this. Not saying
right.
This is not a shot at you at all, but you watch so many marriages fail, relationships fall apart before something like this could happen. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, how many? Not that yours was in jail. You already had a great marriage, but I for some reason I'm just thinking about like the divorce rate is like 50%. It's like, how many marriages would something like this have saved? It's just a rhetorical random question.
Yeah, but, that's an interesting take.
It's kind of like, because man, if you already loved her that much, and then it went to here, it's like, what potential is there for love and for caring and for nurturing and for altruistic love that's like right at our disposal, but just the right circumstances have. So I guess then the question is, don't wait for a heart attack, right? For this to happen. Like, how could this? I mean, but really, I mean, what's the message to married
So how
people?
can you generate the heart attack? What do I have to do?
I'm
and
sure
in my
there are
case,
ways.
just eat whatever you want for many years and cross your fingers.
Oh man, see, this is what you get when you get Todd Lamanske, man. Take you from crying to laughter, but really, I mean, I don't even know if I have the answer. I was going to be a marriage and family therapist, but I know there's books, there's how-tos on how to grow closer, and I think that's what it is. It's like, it doesn't have to be some significant moment. I think really it just takes nurturing over time, and this is a dramatic part of your story, but even for you, it's been the nurturing, the love over time that even maybe help you get through that, because who knows, maybe heart attack sometimes is the thing that breaks people apart. It's kind of like, it was already hard, now it's really hard, I'm done. So it's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, the strong marriage or the heart attack? What really made it? I don't know, but I guess the point is, I think we all, it's just easy to give up early on things, and this is not a shot at divorced people. I'm just saying, like, if you're in a relationship, it's on the rocks. I mean, start looking outside yourself. Because like for you, you were laying in the hospital bed, you weren't even thinking about her. And I think that's where we are a lot of times. I'm thinking about Devin. What does Devin need?
Right.
I'm like, oh, wait.
And it sounds like I'm self-centered, and I'm not.
Right.
But
right.
in that time,
well,
you're
understandably, you
yes,
were like
that's the thing.
in survival mode.
You're like, okay,
yes.
what? How do I need to? And she was focused on that too. So it was all like everything. Every day from wake up to go to sleep, you're focused on, okay, what do I need to do today to get better? I need to walk. Okay, I've got to take this medicine. And everything is about me and getting better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sounds, on the surface, it's like you didn't think about her at all.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're not thinking that way.
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah. Well, but to parallel that, it's true for life. Even though it's less dramatic and your life isn't physically on the line at that point, we're all in survival mode. We're all thinking about, how am I going to get through today?
Yeah.
Without a drink, without gambling, without whatever addictive behavior, or just, how am I going to get through today? And you just are not looking over here at other people. When you get caught in that trap of selflessness, of isolation, that's when your relationships start to deteriorate. Now, I don't speak as a relationship expert, but we've all seen this, So it's like, I think for me, I think this is more, I'm probably just airing out my own dirty laundry here. Oh man, I need to focus more on others, love other people more. That's always the goal, but it's so easy to get that, you're in survival mode and you're just looking at yourself.
When you get home today, you're going to wrap your arms around Lynn
I'm
and
going
give
to wink at her.
That's just wink at her. Just wink
give
at
her
her.
the wink.
And
That's
she'll be like, weirdo.
Just wink. That's going to be the name of my new podcast. You and me together, just wink. So
it'll be a Toddcast.
Oh, Toddcast. That was worth a fist bump. Yeah, man. Okay, dude. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for going there.
Yeah, of course.
Really appreciate that, man. So, okay, we've kind of talked about, man, Todd could be a motivational speaker. I mean, with that story right there, he's ready for the stage, right? Comment, let us know, should Todd be a motivational speaker? Again, not trying to
MagicDude.com, just book me now.
and that's he's not kidding. It is actually MagicDude.com. It almost sounded like you were joking.
Yeah,
but
MagicDude.com.
MagicDude.com. How do you get that URL?
I had to pay for it.
I guess.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, right? I mean, because it was like people wanted that one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people probably dub themselves the Magic Dude.
Yeah,
it's
probably
on your business
so.
card, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're like
Magic business card?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about getting some of the. I should probably do that.
You need to get a website.
I should get a website.
Oh,
and
man,
an act. I should get an act.
Yeah. But there's this one story that you told me a long time ago that I'm always like, that could be your whole brand, right? Now this was pre-heart attack that I had this idea. So anyway, both would be part of the story. But your mom, right? Like your mom passed away recently, like 6 or 7 years ago, something like that.
Actually, 10 years ago. Yeah.
Has it been 10 years?
Been 10 years.
That's wild.
I know.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I've known you longer sometimes than I realize. Like I knew you before my oldest, before my 16-year-old was born. We go way back.
Before you were married.
Yeah, it's true. Before I was married, I was thinking about that because you couldn't come to my wedding because you had a gig because you're so dang successful.
You were like, I don't think I want to marry this chick, and I was like, come on, go ahead and take the plunge. Like, I don't know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, by the way.
But no, man, there was this story about your mom when you were a kid, and I'll let you tell the story. But will you tell the puddle story?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And by the way, like you helped me and convinced me that I actually have used that. As kind of just a little short keynote at the end of my act a few times, but So what you're referring to, I believe, is the splashing story, the puddle splashing. Yeah. So my dad. This is probably irrelevant, but he died when I was 8 years old of a heart attack, ironically. But so my mom ended up raising all of us. Like I said, there was eight kids, and by that time, a couple of the older ones were already gone. But at any rate, so my dad worked at Katz. It was a Katz, Katz Warehouse. It was in North Kansas City, and I remember we must have only had one car for some reason, but I remember that we had to go pick him up at work, and the route we took, and I couldn't even tell you what streets they were, but if it had rained, there was one street that always had a big puddle of water kind of on the side of the road. And instead of avoiding the puddle, she would drive through the puddle and it would make a big spray. And I loved that. And she knew I loved that. So she would, anytime that was an opportunity, if there was water on that street, she would do that because she knew I loved that. And that's the thing that we talk about, that puddle splashing moment, that just a small thing that she did to make my day, and that we all have that.
Yeah.
We all have that ability. We all have that ability every day to be a puddle splasher, to go out and do something, go out of your way. And sometimes you don't even have to go out of your way. I mean, how hard is it Sonia comes in here. How hard is it for Devin to say, hey, man, you were awesome today? And you have no idea the impact that may or may not even register, but it might be something that changes their day or their life. You have no idea how some small positive thing that you do that isn't even a big thing, like the thing you did for me when I was going through my difficult time, how amazing that was. And for you, I'm sure it was like, it's not a big deal. He did a show for me, and it was amazing.
I didn't perform a show for him in the hospital. It made it sound like I came over in a clown suit and I'm like, all right, Todd, it's your turn to be entertained. What's that behind your ear? Oh, use a little soap and water to clear that up. That's Todd's joke.
If you haven't ever booked Devin, that is what his act is like.
Yeah, very clownish and honk. Yeah, but so what I'm getting from you is that with Sonia today, I was a puddle splasher for her and impacted her in a way maybe bigger than she realizes, and that everybody listening can also be puddle splashers in their life and in their work to impact the relationships, whether it's the people at home, their customers, their coworkers, and that if you were on stage as a motivational speaker, you would be encouraging all those people to be puddle splashers as
Big
well
time.
in their life and their work. See, man, I see so much gold in this message and potential. Whether it's your calling or not, I don't know. But I've been every time Todd has a gig where they're kind of like, "Can you give us a little message at the end?" Like recently, you did it for some teachers in California. Because Mr. Success travels all over the country.
Ooh.
Coast to coast is not just a thing he says.
Yeah.
But you did it for a teacher, like an in-service or a back-to-school thing,
Yeah.
and they wanted some kind of message at the end. So he calls me. It's like, okay, time to do this puddle splashing thing again. Or,
Yeah.
I think you call me about like it's so fun. That's one thing we do is we call each other, and whether we're working on a trick or whatever it is, we're like, hey, I'm trying to do this, and so much of my comedy and my tricks have been up-leveled just from our bouncing things back and forth. And I think you had a question about sequence of what do you think, this would be better or this would be better? What should I close with? And I turned to, well, you're doing the puddle splashing thing, right? And I think you were already planning on doing it.
Yeah.
But for me, that's, I think, the best way for like an entertainer who's wanting to go to the speaking side is just to start talking more. That's what someone told me. Just add that 5 minutes at the end of your magic show to show people, well, you've got some content here. And then let that part of it just start growing, right? And so for me, that ending with that story. And did you end with that story for those teachers?
You know what I told you?
I forgot. I remember you gave me an update. I can't remember what you said.
So I do a trick with money, and it ends up inside of a lemon. And that's usually my closer because it's just this crazy, impossible thing, and that's what people always talk about. And I said, do you think I should end with the money in the lemon, or should I end with the little keynote about puddle splashing? And you said, for sure, end with the puddle splashing. And I was just nervous about it. Because here's what happens. As you know, we've been doing this for long enough. We know what will work.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me. Like, I know that if I close with the bill and lemon, that's going to bring the house down.
Yeah.
But I don't know if ending with the puddle splashing will. So before I brought the money back out of the lemon, I did do the puddle splashing story, and then brought it back and did. So
I remember this now.
I
remember the conversation because I actually validated him on that decision because you trusted your gut. And your gut, you were there more as an entertainer than you were as a speaker. And you wanted to close strong. And since you were hired mainly as an entertainer, I think that was the right call to do that. Now, if they were like, we want the message to really be the thing that hits home, make sure you emphasize the message. If they would have said that, then maybe the puddle.
And I would have.
And the speaker thing in me was like, well, of course, because I've had coaches show me how when I for me, since I'm a speaker first, magician second,
right.
opposite of what you were that day.
Yeah.
Since I'm a speaker first, if I end with some hard hitting crazy magic, it makes it about me. And this is my production, and thank you. And But if I end with the story, then it's about, look, I did all this. This was fun. This is what it means for you, and this is the last thing I want you to remember. Keep asking what else is possible. And so I remember that conversation and saying, hey, you trusted your gut. You did the right thing. So
no, that's smart.
But anyway, I see value in that. I mean, obviously, the story is there, the ability is there. I think the question is the calling there? So I'd never want to force you into it, but you better dig will do it.
Is this just an intervention? Is that what this is?
Come on in, Tony Robbins, let's go.
You got me.
but
got me good.
But I am just curious, how does that land with you? Is that not that you even have to answer this, but I am curious. Is it something you think? Do you see in your future any kind of motivational speaking?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, and we've talked about this in the past, I have other ideas for that. So I think that's maybe what clutters it. Is it's like, do I? Because I've thought about doing a keynote on communication because. Working in customer service, I've got a ton of ideas about communication.
And that's definitely what you have over me. Is you've worked in corporate America. I've just worked with people who have worked in corporate America. You actually have the grinding in the trenches experience.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's I could go in the direction of the puddle splashing and just that just.
Well, and I could see those two maybe going together because, by the way, the communication thing is, we joke about this over time, but when we're talking over the phone, trying to explain something, and I have to explain, okay, because we use a lot of props. I'm like, okay, this props, imagine a box that's, I don't know. You're like, is it the size of a deck of playing cards or a shoebox, Devin? And Todd can just hey, and when you're explaining something to me, though, it's very clear. You can just somehow know what I don't know and explain that to me over the phone. You have that ability. You have that strength. So before the puddle splashing thing came along, like over a decade ago, I remember talking to you about, you should do some kind of communication. You could use mentalism, talking about but I could see the two going hand in hand because if we talk about communication, how to be clear, but also how to communicate in a way that serves other people, I mean, that falls into that umbrella of puddle splashing. That could be kind of what it comes to, because why do we want to communicate effectively? Why do we want to serve people with the way that we talk? Well, here's why. You could change someone's life, and here's how someone communicated love to me in a way that didn't even use any words. Let me tell you about puddles. And then you talk about the puddle splashing thing. And I see puddle splashing. You need to buy that URL, by the way, before someone takes it. But I just see that being, and then obviously the heart attack thing coming in, the wink, there could be a lot of nonverbal communications, which are the two most powerful forms of communication the wink from the heart attack story and the puddle splashing. Two incredibly modes of communication that had, crazy impact.
Yeah.
So I think we just wrote your keynote.
Awesome.
I think we just did it. And you know what, dude? We were thinking about titling this episode something like Making Moments of Magic with Todd Lamanske, but I'm more like, how do you define success? And you had talked about maybe doing a trick on the podcast, which obviously is harder for our listeners, people who are only listening, that is. But I honestly didn't want to do it because while he's incredible at magic, and go look at him online at Magic Dude and YouTube, Todd Lamanske, I didn't want that to take away from what this conversation could. I didn't want it to become all funny and jokes. And so I'm really glad we got to a lot of the meat and a lot of the heart of what you're about, man, because you're a deep dude. And people, when you come up in the restaurant and you do a 5-minute show, I mean, they get to see some awesome magic, but they don't always see like, oh man, this guy's been through a lot.
I think that it just would have cheapened it. If we would have done a trick, wouldn't it have just cheapened the whole thing somehow?
Absolutely. That would have taken away from it. So thank you for refraining from any kind of pyrotechnics or anything like that.
For you, buddy.
Yeah. People listening, for that moment to make sense, you'll just need to go watch on YouTube. That's all I'm going to say. That was good. By the way, for that trick right there, you became somewhat famous locally because they featured it in a Royals game.
Not just locally. It blew up.
Okay. Twitter and
So, do you want to hear the...
Yeah, absolutely, man. This would be a good one to close on.
Yeah. So, sorry.
I'm kidding. We got all day.
My wife and I and another couple were at a Royals game. This would have been, believe it or not, it was the week before I had my heart attacks. The week before. It was July 5th or something.
That's great, because you called me right after it happened, and that was right before your heart attack.
Wow.
Crazy. Okay. All right.
So, at a Royals game, and a guy walked by with a camera. He walked, how did it go? he walked by with the camera, and I said to my wife, jokingly, I said, "Uh-oh, they found out I'm here." Just joking, obviously. And the guy heard me. And I wasn't intending for him to hear me,
Right.
I assure you. And he turned around and looked at me, and he came back, and we were sitting kind of like there was like an aisle right next to us, and we had really good seats. And he turned and came and stood right here and aimed the camera right at me, and I was like, okay. So I pulled out my wallet, and I have a wallet that I can catch on fire. And I lit it on fire.
As you all just saw, but you listeners
Yeah,
are like,
yeah,
what?
So I light the wallet on fire, and I closed the wallet, and that was it. I thought, no big deal.
Yeah.
So we're at the game, and I start getting texts said, "Hey, dude, you're on TV," because there's like the Royals local channel that I guess they showed that on there. I thought, okay, that makes sense. Then a little while later, somebody texted and said, "Dude, you're blowing up on Twitter." I'm not even on Twitter, so I was like, okay, cool.
Doubly
amazing. And then Harold Kuntz from Channel 41, I believe, he had tweeted the video.
Nice.
And then I get a text, "Patrick Mahomes just retweeted your video."
I
And I was
about
like,
that. That's insane.
what? He's the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's the quarterback. That's the guy that throws the ball.
cornerback?
No?
Quarterback.
No, quarterback.
Thank you. Some people
And
might not know.
so then the next day, I woke up and I know a guy that lives in Indonesia, and he messaged me and said, "Dude, I just saw your video on."
Wow.
And I was like, "What is going on?" And Channel 41 called me, wanted me to come do a spot on there. But what was crazy was on Fox News, on their website, I was trending above Britney Spears, which was a big deal at that time. It was nuts. It was just all because of this silly. I mean, honestly wasn't even thinking about that. I was just messing around.
Yeah, you were honestly, in a way, you were like puddle splashing that day. You know what I mean? You're like, hey, here's the guy. I'm just gonna, because that's your gift, man.
Yeah.
And it's like something that's like, whoa, and sometimes that's a gift to people. Something unexpected and safe, albeit it's fire. But still, it was, in an unexpected moment. How cool is that? And I was not expecting you to do that on this podcast. I should have been.
I know.
But here's what I love about, in a way, you proved me wrong. That the magic, I feel like, added, and gave us this awesome story. Now I'm getting all lesson motivational speaker on you, but
that's
honestly,
what you do.
In a way, it's kind of like in my speeches. I don't want to come out and lead with magic tricks. I'm going to be doing magic tricks because it's like, oh, we got a clown. We don't want a clown. We want a speaker. Right. But then you bring the magic in a very tasteful, subtle, fast, relevant way, and it actually adds rather than detracts. And I feel like your trick added today.
Good.
I'm serious, rather than taking away. And so that's how I sell it to my clients. That hey. They weren't. And sometimes even after a speech, people are like, "Oh, I had heard you did magic. I wasn't sure if you were going to do any. I'm glad you did." Rather than beforehand, are you doing some of that magic? Because they don't really know what that means.
Right.
Like, are you going to be pulling scarves out of a hat?
Right.
But after they see the kind of magic you and I do, it's like, oh, okay, I see how that was better. But you can't always advertise it that way. When you're a speaker first. So anyway, motivational speaker. Todd Lamanske, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited, man. Even though, as we cultivate your message, I say we, because I've already claimed myself his speaking coach.
That's right.
I'm going to be creating one of my toughest competitors, especially here in the Kansas City metro area. So I'm going to have to somehow figure out how to make you disappear.
Wait.
That would have been a cool place to end the...
Were those heart attacks a coincidence?
or
were you trying to eliminate
email in the mail? Hello, Fresh. Awesome, man. Well, hey, two real quick questions, if that's cool, before we close out, man. It's been so good. Thank you, man. This is more than I expected, honestly. Yeah.
Good. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, before the last two questions, thanks again to Etc. And Todd endorses the Despierta burrito.
I do.
The burrito was good, but it was filling. And thanks to Sonia and Shannon and Michael and Phyllis and Chris. And then we got Minsky's next door. That's a story for another day. They're awesome,
If
too.
we keep talking, it'll be lunchtime.
And you know me. Okay. We've already touched it, but how can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, best way, I'm on Facebook, but magicdude.com, that's my website, and there's videos and information about my services.
Magicdude.com. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, last question for you. Can you give, since you're also a dad of daughters, can you just give one piece of advice for my daughters?
Oh.
I know. hit you with this one.
This is not planned because I don't have it. I honestly.
Get back to me in a week. Just that's one thing.
Advice for your daughters?
If my daughters were listening to this and you were to say, "Hey, Devin's girls," what would you tell them?
Yeah.
One piece of life advice. Don't screw
Your
this up.
Your dad is much cooler than you think he is.
Thank you.
That's true. That's true because they probably don't know how cool you are. They just don't.
I wonder.
They just. I mean, maybe they do. I haven't seen your daughters for a while. There's some of your daughters I haven't met.
You know that I am.
But he's much cooler than you think he is. Otherwise, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. Oh, well, you've given a lot of advice in the fabric of this whole podcast anyway, so don't worry about it.
So what I'm hearing is that was a terrible answer. Maybe they can glean something
Rewind, hit back 15 a few times. No, man. Thank you. No, I am cool. Let it be that. Come on in, man. Right. You're good. This is Aaron, the manager of Minsky's. You won't see him, but he's here. We're wrapping up. I know you have your party. We're wrapping up, and then we will get out of here, okay? You're the man. Okay, hey, y'all, thank you so much. Minsky's needs the room, yo. Thank you, etc. Thank you, Todd Lamanske. And remember, never stop asking the question, what else is possible?